human operative was her enemy. But when the grenade dropped, alien strategist shielded him with her body. The steel hallways of the Helion spire shimmered with a lattice of sapphire security beams, precise, beautiful, and lethal. Only one mind on Arctis Prime could have crafted such a trap. Rowan pressed himself against the cold alloy floor, the chill biting through his thin synth leather jacket. Each beam pulsed with calculated menace, intersecting in hypnotic patterns, deadly geometry, as elegant as it was final. He knew this design. He could feel her, Lyra, somewhere in the spire's labyrinth, her intellect wound tight around every line of code, every mirrored surface. His heart hammered against the floor. Behind him, the informant, just a code runner, skin pale and slick with fear, hugged the shadows, eyes wide, breath shuddering through clenched teeth. "We're finished. There's no escape," the code runner whispered, voice cracking under the weight of panic. His hands twitched at his sides, ready to bolt, but he didn't know where to go. "There's always a way," Rowan murmured, barely moving his lips. His gaze traced the beam array, seeking the logic behind the deadliness. Lyra's patterns. Not random, never random. She adored Fibonacci spirals, the illusion of symmetry concealing traps, always a rhythm to her madness. He reached for his pack, slow and silent, careful not to break the trembling silence of the corridor. From within, he pulled a battered compact, its silver surface scuffed but reliable, and a wind-up spider toy, one of his oldest tricks. He flicked the spider's tiny key, feeling the old tension in the clockwork. The code runner flinched at the sound, but Rowan only arched an eyebrow. "When I say go, you move," Rowan whispered, shifting his body to shield the code runner from the cameras he'd already mapped in his mind. "Don't look back." The spider scuttled forward, clicking legs carrying it straight into the mouth of the labyrinth. Rowan angled the mirror just so, catching the light of the lowest beam and bending it harmlessly to the ceiling, creating a pocket of safety. The spider slipped beneath the next line of blue, mechanical eyes glittering. It hesitated, exactly where Rowan had predicted. Lyra always placed a mirror trap at the Fibonacci point. He could see her mind, her fingerprints in every trap. He measured his breath, counted out the rhythm of the beams. "Now!" he hissed, voice sharp. The code runner leaped, arms pumping, feet barely making a sound on the metal. He slid beneath the arching light, Rowan pressed close behind, weaving through the shifting grid. Sweat traced cold lines down Rowan's spine. He ducked, twisted, leaped, a final surge, fingers brushing the last deadly thread. He scooped up the spider toy mid-motion, rolling onto the far side of the trap, the code runner gasping at his feet. Rowan straightened, hair wild, heart pounding with the thrill of the impossible. He turned toward the nearest security camera, offered a jaunty salute, 2 fingers, mocking and defiant. The code runner stared at him, half in awe, half in terror. Without waiting for a reaction, Rowan yanked a pulse bomb from his belt. He slapped it against the wall. It hummed with energy, then burst, sending a ripple of static through the air. The cameras flickered, the sensors went dark, the entire corridor dropped into momentary blindness. Elsewhere, in a darkened control suite lined with monitors, Lyra watched the image dissolve into snow. Her gloved hands hovered over the controls, every muscle rigid with focus. Rowan's salute replayed in her mind, a taunt and a challenge. Her handler's voice crackled through her earpiece, the words clipped and cold. "The target is lost. The human Rowan has him. He bypassed the Helion grid." Lyra's jaw tensed. She reported the breach, mirror and toy, with icy precision, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. Yet beneath the surface, something else stirred. He hadn't broken her system, he'd sidestepped it. She should have felt anger, perhaps shame, but instead, a flicker of admiration crept in, unbidden. Her handler uploaded a new directive. The screen pulsed red. "Retrieve the Nova drive from Solaris Vault before the Terran Authority. Failure was not permitted." Lyra's fingers danced over schematics and patrol logs, recalculating. Her mind spun through probabilities, defense grids, and hidden faults. But again and again her thoughts snagged on Rowan's image. His irreverent salute, the wild gleam in his eyes, the way he moved through chaos as if it were music only he could hear. She played back the footage, searching for a pattern in his unpredictability, analyzing every shift and feint. But what she felt, a warm, unsettling pulse in the cold machine of her logic, could not be quantified. The Solaris Vault's titanium door thrummed under Rowan's gloved touch, the low pulse echoing through his bones like the warning of some massive, slumbering beast. The corridor around him was silent, sterile, the only illumination a column of cold blue light spilling down from the ceiling, glinting off burnished steel. Behind him, the echo of his own breath mingled with the faint memory of a bluff at the checkpoint, a spoofed call on a stolen comm. Now there was only the vault, hulking and immutable, between him and the Nova Drive. A whisper of movement behind him, soft as silk but sharp as a blade. He spun, weapon up, finger tight on the trigger. Lyra stood just beyond the reach of the door's shadow, framed by the sterile glow. Her skin was pale, luminous blue, almost opalescent, veins beneath tracing faint constellations. White hair tumbled over her shoulders in a shimmering cascade, catching the light and scattering it in violet fragments. Her eyes, twin pools of starlit amethyst, locked on him with a calm that was both predatory and curious. "Rowan," she said, her voice a melody with an edge of steel. He kept his sidearm leveled, but his posture softened. Months of near misses and near disasters had written their own rules between them. "Lyra, didn't expect you to miss this party." Her lips barely curved, something like a smile flickering and vanishing. "The drive is mine," she replied, stepping closer, her boots soundless on the polished alloy. The air between them sizzled, charged with the kinetic energy of rivalry, of grudging respect, and the raw, unspoken thing that had grown between ambushes and crossed wires. Rowan's weapon dipped. He didn't raise it again. "We've got a standoff, then." Lyra's head tilted, considering him the way a mathematician might a stubborn equation. "You improvise. Inefficient, but effective." He grinned, teeth flashing. "I like results." They circled each other, the vault door their arena, each movement measured, neither trusting nor wholly able to let go. Rowan's eyes flicked to the security panel, then back to Lyra. Her gaze tracked his, cool and impenetrable. For all her programming, for all her logic, there was something else in her, something hungry. For a moment, the silence was intimate, like the hush before a storm. Beneath the tension, another current pulsed, a fascination, a dangerous draw that neither calculation nor bravado could dispel. Suddenly, the corridor was drowned in red. Warning lights strobed, slicing through the blue with violent urgency. An automated voice crackled overhead, emotionless and absolute. "Security breach. All unauthorized personnel are targets. Lethal force authorized." Rowan flicked his eyes to Lyra, face hardening. "You're doing?" "No," she replied, and for the first time, a crack showed in her composure. The cool mask slipped, just for a heartbeat, as the vault's lock hissed and spun. The door yawned open with ponderous inevitability. From beyond, 6 Orion Syndicate troopers stormed into the corridor, their armor matte black with gleaming orange trim, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. Weapons trained, they fanned out with brutal precision. The lead trooper's voice was guttural, amplified. "Agent Lyra, you are terminated. Surrender the human and the drive." Shock rippled through Lyra's expression. For a half-second, she was stripped bare, betrayed, cut loose by her own people. The troopers primed a thermal charge, the sound of its ignition a high, keening whine. Rowan's eyes darted past the troopers, catching the movement of a terrified technician cowering by a maintenance hatch. Another variable, one more life tangled in the crossfire. He tensed, ready to throw himself into the chaos, but Lyra was already moving. With the efficiency of a precision algorithm and the desperation of a hunted animal, Lyra slammed into Rowan, her momentum propelling him and the technician sideways into a narrow alcove, shielded by an emergency blast wall. Her body collided with his, and for a split second he felt her heat, her heartbeat a frantic staccato against his chest. The thermal charge detonated. The world became pure white, a tidal wave of force and light swallowing everything. The air rippled, sound stripped from the world in a thunderous instant. Metal shrieked, synthetic polymers boiled, the corridor became a furnace. Rowan shielded the technician with his own body as the shockwave tore past. He felt Lyra's weight slump against him, her breath sharp and shallow, the aftershock rattling his teeth. When the dust settled, the corridor was transformed. The vault itself was a blackened wreck, its titanium skin buckled and smoking, the great door warped and torn from its hinges. The walls were scorched, panels peeled back like the petals of some nightmarish flower. Debris hung in the air, drifting down in slow motion. The Orion troopers were gone, nothing left but their scorched insignia and the ghost of ozone in the air. At the center of the devastation, Lyra lay sprawled, her armor fractured, lines of blue blood oozing through shattered plating. Her white hair fanned around her like a halo, streaked with soot and ash. She was motionless, limbs twisted at unnatural angles. Rowan pushed the technician away and crawled to her, his heart pounding. For the first time he felt something colder than fear, a hollow, panicked certainty that she was truly lost. Enemy, enigma, obsession, whatever she was, she had saved his life. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Lyra," he whispered, voice rough. Her eyes fluttered open, flickering with stubborn life. She tried to push herself up, but a wave of pain forced her still. Her voice was a ragged whisper. "Status." He fumbled at the edges of her armor, searching for wounds. Shrapnel was buried deep in her side and thigh, blue blood welling with every ragged breath. Rowan's hands shook as he pressed his jacket against her side, trying to staunch the worst of it. Her skin was impossibly soft, warm, faintly glowing even beneath the grime. "You're going to be fine," he lied, forcing steadiness into his words. "You're too stubborn to die." Her lips twitched, the faintest ghost of a smile. "You improvise," she managed, the phrase almost affectionate now. Rowan looked up. The corridor beyond was gutted, flames licking along exposed wiring, alarms howling like banshees. He scooped Lyra's weightless form into his arms, cradling her against his chest. Her head lolled to his shoulder, the white of her hair stark against his black jacket. The technician stared at them, wide-eyed, trembling. "Move!" Rowan snapped, jerking his head toward the back passage. The technician bolted, disappearing into a maintenance shaft. Rowan staggered to his feet, Lyra's body pressed close, her faint glow illuminating the path ahead. The exit lay through the underways, the forgotten arteries beneath Solaris, where shadows ruled and authority rarely ventured. Each step was agony, the weight of Lyra in his arms a desperate anchor. Behind them the vault burned, a beacon of ruin. Alarms faded as they plunged into the city's subterranean maze, Rowan's pulse racing with each uncertain turn. He didn't dare look back. All that mattered was the woman in his arms, enemy, savior, puzzle, and the Nova Drive clutched in his pocket, still warm from its prison. Lyra's breathing slowed, her eyes drifting closed, but her fingers curled weakly in his jacket. For the first time, Rowan realized just how thin the line between rivalry and something far more dangerous had become. He fled into the city's forgotten underways, Lyra's faint glow guiding him through the darkness, toward whatever future waited in the endless shadows below. In a derelict maintenance hub, Rowan laid Lyra down beneath a flickering emergency lamp, its feeble light painting ragged shadows on the scarred ferrocrete walls. The air was thick with the scent of ozone, rust, and the faint metallic tang of her blood. He cleared a space among broken tools and discarded cables, easing her slender frame onto a makeshift pallet of old insulation foam. She stared up at the ruined ceiling, violet-flecked eyes glassy but alert. Her breath came shallow, blue blood seeping through the fractured seams of her armor. Rowan knelt beside her, rolling up his sleeves, his movements quick and economical, deliberate, almost tender. He drew his knife, its blade already streaked with red and blue from their escape. "This will sting," he warned, voice low, steady, but threaded with concern. He steadied her shoulders with one hand, fingers finding the pulse that glimmered beneath her glowing skin. Lyra nodded, jaw clenched in silent readiness. Rowan worked the knife through the ruined fabric, slicing away the suit with precise, practiced flicks. The armor peeled back, revealing skin so pale it seemed translucent, etched with fine circuitry, and slick with a sheen of luminous blue. The wound in her side was ugly, jagged, splinters of blackened shrapnel embedded deep. She made no sound as he probed for the metal, only a single sharp inhale as his blade caught the largest shard. Her body tensed, muscles rigid with pain, but her eyes never left his face. Rowan's own breath grew shallow as he extracted the fragments one by one, dropping them with tiny clinks into a cracked steel tray. With each piece, he pressed a wad of gauze to the wound, his touch unexpectedly gentle, careful not to aggravate the delicate tracery of nerves beneath her skin. Their closeness was electric, the air heavy with everything unsaid. Months of distant conflict, barbed messages and battles in code, distilled now into raw, urgent intimacy. Rowan's hands worked in silence, his brow furrowed with concentration, while Lyra watched him with a strange, searching intensity. She struggled to reconcile the adversary who'd outmaneuvered her logic grids, sidestepped her perfect traps, with the man now saving her life by inches and degrees. He met her gaze as he taped the final bandage into place. "Keep pressure here," he murmured, guiding her hand. She obeyed, fingers trembling. Her mind reeled, betrayed by her syndicate, her handler's voice now a memory, her purpose swept away like ash in the underways. Alive because of this unpredictable human. "They abandoned me," she said quietly, the words catching on a breath she hadn't meant to reveal. Rowan leaned back on his heels, cleaning his knife with a strip of his own shirt. "Welcome to the club," he replied, his tone half sardonic, half empathetic. "Loyalty's just a word for them, means nothing if you're inconvenient." Lyra absorbed this in silence. She glanced down at the blood seeping into the gauze, then back to Rowan. "Why did you risk everything for a stranger?" Her voice was analytical, but beneath it was something raw, a wounded curiosity, an ache for understanding. He shrugged, tucking the knife away. "Empathy," he said simply. "It's a bug in the code. Can't shake it. Maybe I don't want to." She studied his face, as if mapping each scar and line, searching for an algorithm that could explain what she felt. Her own actions replayed in her mind, throwing herself into danger to shield him, a move with no tactical value, no logical return. Was it respect? Curiosity? Or had his chaos infected her order, disrupting the calculus she'd lived by? The silence stretched, filled with the thrum of distant machinery and the irregular flicker of the lamp. Lyra's fingers curled tighter over the wound, her breathing slowing as the pain dulled. Rowan busied himself with their few supplies, checking the Nova Drive's containment case, then scanning the hub's perimeter through a cracked monitor. An hour passed, marked only by the shifting patterns of light on the wall. Rowan tapped at his old comm tablet, decrypting citywide transmissions with the Nova Drive's processing core. Lines of data scrolled by, encrypted syndicate orders, Terran Authority directives, market analysis. A pattern began to emerge, subtle but undeniable. Rowan frowned, voice tight. Something's off. The Syndicate War, Orion and Terran, They're not fighting, not really. Their stock indices rise and fall in tandem. Every attack, every skirmish, it's theater. They're moving together, not against each other. Lyra's eyes narrowed, her mind snapping into focus despite the pain. She pulled herself upright, wincing, and read the data over his shoulder. It's a manufactured conflict, she realized aloud, piecing the puzzle together. To manipulate the markets, artificial scarcity, shifting allegiances. The Nova Drive isn't just a weapon, it's a catalyst for profit. Exactly, Rowan agreed, anger sharpening his features. Every death, every battle, all staged. The real prize isn't territory, it's the Nova Drive, and whatever power it brings. Her mission, her years of training, her pursuit of perfection, each was a lie, a cog in a machine designed to enrich those above her. Lyra's fingers shook, rage and shame warring within her. She looked at Rowan, and for the first time since they'd met, she felt unmoored but not alone. "We have to stop them," she said, her voice steady. "No more games, no more being pawns." Rowan nodded, a slow grin curving his lips. "That's more like it." They plotted in hushed urgency, pooling their strengths. Lyra mapped the syndicate's transfer routes with mathematical precision, her mind slicing through probability and countermeasure. Rowan improvised, suggesting routes and timings, reading the unpredictability of the city's underways like a second language. Their partnership was seamless, his chaos blending with her order, his boldness feeding her resolve. He detailed his plan: intercept the drive during its transfer, use a pulse relay to disable the syndicate's comms, and expose the truth through the city's data feeds. Lyra refined each step, optimizing the timeline, predicting enemy response. They moved together through the shadows, their every gesture a wordless conversation. Rowan scavenged parts for a field jammer. Lyra recalibrated its output. She spotted a security drone. He disabled it with a well-thrown wrench. Between calculations and whispered strategy, their intellectual intimacy grew. Lyra found herself anticipating his questions, finishing his thoughts. Rowan trusted her input without hesitation, relying on her cool head and uncanny foresight. Each brush of fingers over a datapad, each exchange of glances as they checked their escape routes, was electric with something new: respect, understanding, and the first tremors of trust. As they crouched over the city schematics, Lyra caught Rowan watching her, his expression softened by exhaustion and something gentler. "You know, you're better at this than half the syndicate's planners," he said, a touch of admiration in his voice. She almost smiled. "And you're far less reckless than you pretend." They held the moment, the distance between them closing with each shared secret, each plan forged in necessity, and something deeper neither could name. Outside, the underways hummed with danger, the world above oblivious to the alliance forming in its forgotten depths. But inside the derelict hub, two adversaries became partners, intellect and instinct fusing into a force neither the Syndicate nor the Terran Authority could predict or control. The Arc Junction blazed with traffic. Freight haulers and armored sedans pulsed through arteries of neon, columns of light tracing every elevated lane, every maglev rail. Above the chaos, Rowan crouched on a maintenance gantry, face ghosted by the flicker of his tablet. His gloved fingers danced across the display, lines of code cascading as he hijacked the city's grid, rerouting the convoy with surgical precision. At street level, armored vehicles, sleek, black, and faceless, veered unexpectedly, their HUDs glitching, steering them away from the expressways and into the maw of a forgotten underpass. "Convoys boxed in," he murmured into his comm, breath fogging in the chill. "You're up." Lyra moved below, barely a shadow in the flickering underpass light. Her body was still healing, every motion careful but determined. The wound on her side throbbed, but her focus never wavered. She ghosted between pylons as the convoy halted, the air crackling with the nervous energy of cornered soldiers. A pulse grenade hummed in her palm. She lobbed it under the rear escort. Blue light surged, vehicles sputtered, engines dying, comms choking on static. The soldiers within barely had time to curse before their systems went dark. Lyra pressed herself against the battered steel of a support pillar, lips pressed to the comm. Rears down. Go. She darted forward, launching another pulse that slammed into the lead escort. The front vehicle's lights winked out, locking the convoy between dead metal. The soldiers in the central transport swore and drew weapons, confusion blooming into panic. Rowan wasted no time. He vaulted from the gantry, landing atop the central cargo carrier with a muffled thud. The guards inside shouted, scrambling for their rifles. Rowan yanked a shaped charge from his belt, slapping it onto the armored cargo door. The magnetic clamps snapped shut. He twisted the detonator. 2 seconds, he shouted. Lyra was already scaling a scaffold on the far side, slipping in through a shattered skylight just as the charge blew. The door crumpled inward, metal shrieking. Rowan dropped in, boots hitting the deck as smoke billowed. 2 guards whirled, one swung a shock baton, the other went for his comm. Lyra was there first, her movement a blur as she struck the first guard across the temple with the edge of her hand. He crumpled soundlessly. Rowan tackled the second, driving him into the wall. They grappled, fists flying. The guard was bigger, but Rowan fought dirty, jamming an elbow into the man's throat and slamming him to the ground. Clear! Rowan barked, breathless. Lyra retrieved the Nova Drive from its shock cradle, hands moving with reverence and dread. Its housing glowed, core pulsing with energy, everything they'd bled for, everything the Syndicate wanted to control. Alarms split the air, shrill, discordant. Emergency lights painted everything in frantic red. Outside, plasma fire erupted, streaks of brilliant white scorching the darkness as Orion Syndicate enforcers poured from hidden positions. Move! Rowan yelled. He ducked into a maintenance conduit at the flank of the carrier, Lyra behind him. A plasma bolt ricocheted off the wall, sending molten slag spattering across his sleeve. The exit was choked with smoke and confusion. Suddenly, Rowan found himself caught in the open, a single figure silhouetted in the chaos. The Orion captain, a hulking brute in white-edged armor, leveled a plasma rifle, sight locked on Rowan's chest. "Drop it!" the captain barked. "Hands, now!" Rowan froze, the Nova Drive heavy in his grip. Time slowed, every nerve screaming for cover, every instinct screaming for Lyra. She appeared out of the haze, a blue-white wraith moving faster than thought. Without hesitation, Lyra leapt between Rowan and the plasma rifle. The bolt fired, a sizzling, violet arc. It struck her shoulder, burning a line across her flesh. She staggered but did not fall. Rowan's rage was pure instinct. He fired twice, the captain crumpling in a shower of sparks. Lyra's knees buckled. Rowan seized her in the drive, hauling both into a side tunnel as plasma fire shredded the air behind them. The world narrowed to breath and pain and running, the walls blurring past as they fled deeper into the city's underbelly. They burst into the high-rise hideout as dawn crept over the city's spires, breathless, battered, but alive. The space was spare, bare concrete and tangled wires. But to Rowan, it was sanctuary. He eased Lyra onto a makeshift cot, her face drawn and pale, the wound on her shoulder still smoking. "Let me see," he said, his voice rough with urgency. She didn't protest. Rowan peeled back the scorched fabric, hands trembling as he cleaned the wound. Her skin glowed faintly beneath his touch, the blue-white light pulsing in time with her heartbeat. His fingers lingered on her jaw, tracing the curve where skin met cybernetic grafts. He found himself memorizing her features, the way her eyes softened when she looked at him. The old barriers, months of rivalry, suspicion, and secrets, had dissolved in the crucible of their flight. Now there was only this, his hands gentle on her battered skin, her trust unspoken, but absolute. Lyra's voice broke the silence, fragile as new glass. "Why?" she whispered. "You had the drive. You could have left." Rowan hesitated, searching her eyes for something he'd never dared name. He brushed a soot-streaked strand of hair from her cheek, his thumb lingering. "I don't leave people behind," he said, voice hoarse. "And somewhere along the way, you became one of my people." The word struck deeper than any wound. In Lyra's world, people were assets, resources to be used and discarded. Rowan saw her, not the agent, not the weapon, but the person beneath. The realization sent a tremor through her, as if some hidden lock had come undone. She leaned into his touch. Their first kiss was urgent and fierce, months of rivalry and longing igniting into something real. Her lips were cool, his warm, and in that collision of opposites, something new was born. Solace in the chaos, hope in the ruins. Outside, the city pulsed with neon and unrest, but within their high-rise sanctuary, the world fell away. Later, as the city stirred and sunlight crept through grime-smeared glass, Rowan and Lyra sat shoulder to shoulder, the Nova Drive resting between them. Their comm terminal glowed with the evidence they'd gathered, proof of the syndicate's deception, the market manipulations, the cost in lives. Rowan's fingers hovered over the send key. He looked at Lyra, silent question in his eyes. She nodded, her hand finding his. Together. He triggered the upload. Encrypted files burst onto the city's networks, flashing across every screen, every comm unit, every data hub. The truth could not be hidden now. By dawn, they released the evidence, proof of the syndicate's deception. By midday, the city was in uproar, old powers collapsing, new futures forming in the wake of the chaos they'd unleashed. Aboard a battered star hauler, Lyra watched the news feed flicker across the cracked holoscreen. Starlight filtered through the grime-smeared viewport, illuminating her pale blue skin with shifting ribbons of silver and violet. The broadcast looped again. The collapse of syndicate strongholds, the city's riots, the Nova Drive's exposure. Arctis Prime had been thrown into chaos. Leaders arrested, fortunes erased, new powers rising from the ruins, all because two fugitives had refused to play by anyone's script. Behind her, Rowan slept, sprawled on the threadbare bunk, the blanket twisted at his waist. The lines of exhaustion had softened on his face, though his body bore fresh scars. A raw, healing slash on his shoulder, mirroring the mark she carried. Lyra's fingers traced her own wound, the flesh cool and faintly luminous beneath her touch. She remembered the hideout, the frantic, life-affirming way they had found each other in the heart of the storm. For her kind, closeness had always been functional, a calculation of needs and outcomes. But with Rowan, it had become something else entirely, transformative, unpredictable. The Star Hauler's engines rumbled, a steady thrum underfoot, carrying them far from the world that had tried to claim and break them both. Lyra listened to the sound, the rhythm of Rowan's breathing, the distant echo of hyperspace currents. She felt changed, the old parameters gone, her sense of self shifting in ways that defied logic or code. A faint movement from the bunk. Rowan stirred, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He blinked up at her, a crooked smile tugging at his lips. "Did we win?" he asked, voice rough with sleep and something gentler. Hope, perhaps, or relief. Lyra considered the question, gaze drifting to the Nova Drive's containment case, wedged in a supply crate under the console. "We survived," she answered, voice soft but sure. "And we have a very illegal drive. Complicates things." He let out a low, tired laugh, propping himself up on one elbow. "Complicated beats dead. I'll take it." He watched her for a moment, eyes searching hers. "Are you all right?" She weighed the question with care. Her body had mended, old wounds gone to scar tissue, nanites humming beneath the skin. But her world, The world of syndicate directives, perfect logic, missions without end, was gone, burned away by betrayal and revelation. "I am adapting," she said at last. "You are an unpredictable factor, Rowan. Your empathy, your choices, these are not flaws. They are strengths I cannot replicate." He reached out, fingers brushing hers. She hesitated for a breath, then allowed his hand to find hers, their fingers entwining. Two worlds meeting, flesh and circuitry, chaos and design, the past and what might be. He grinned. "So what now, my logical, luminous warrior?" Lyra's lips quirked in response. "Now we're free agents. The possibilities are intriguing." He leaned in and kissed her, softly, slowly, a promise rather than a farewell. Her eyes fluttered closed, and she let herself feel the warmth, the connection that no algorithm could measure. Outside, the cosmos stretched in endless possibility. Together, fugitives and rebels, they jumped to hyperspace, the battered hauler vanishing into the star-washed dark, leaving the chaos of Arctis Prime behind. 6 months later, they called Elysia home, a hidden world shrouded in mists, bought with a fraction of their spoils. Their house was modest, tucked amid flowering vines and blue-leafed trees, built from local stone and scavenged starship hulls. There was no need for security grids, no eyes in the walls. For the first time, Rowan slept without a weapon under his pillow, and Lyra awoke without code running in her mind. Their days were peaceful. Rowan found joy in building, shaping wood and metal into tables, benches, a swing beneath the arching boughs. His hands, once so skilled at destruction, now learned patience and creation. He laughed more easily, the hard edges of his life softening in the gentle light. Lyra wandered the hills, cataloging new species, teaching herself to see beauty without purpose. She watched the twin moons rise over the fields, felt rain on her skin, learned to paint with color and with silence. Sometimes she caught herself waiting for the old fears to return, for orders to shatter the quiet. But the only voice she heard was Rowan's, calling her home. They kept the Nova Drive hidden in a false wall, insurance perhaps, or a reminder. But it no longer defined them. The past was a story they had survived together. One evening, as the sky melted from gold to indigo and the twin moons crested the horizon, Lyra found Rowan on the porch watching the stars. She joined him, silent at first, then spoke with rare hesitation. "I believe I am experiencing emotional glitches," she confessed. "Unexpected responses, a longing for your presence, a fear that this peace is temporary." She paused, turning the words over as if they were new, precious things. "I do not know how to correct them, or if I want to." Rowan listened, his eyes gentle. "Feelings aren't errors," he said quietly. "They're what make us real." She looked at him, uncertain. "You are certain of this?" He nodded, drawing her hand to his chest. "I've lost people. I've held on to grief, to memory. It hurts, sometimes unbearably. But feelings remind you you're alive. They mean you care, and that means you're not alone." She studied his face in the moonlight, then touched the scar on his shoulder, a perfect twin to the one she bore. He reached out, tracing the line of hers with reverence, his thumb lingering at the hollow of her collarbone. The marks were not just wounds, but the story of their journey, evidence of choices made, risks taken, a future claimed by courage and trust. Their kiss was slow, deep, a celebration of everything fragile and miraculous about life. For a moment, the universe narrowed to the heat of breath and skin, to the wordless promise passing between them. In the darkness, Lyra felt herself change again, less machine, more woman, more herself. They sat together as the stars wheeled overhead, not out of desperation, but hope, choosing each other, again and again, with every heartbeat and every dawn that followed. Their peace shattered with a single chime. The sound cut through the evening hush, sharp, unfamiliar, and instantly ominous. Rowan's muscles coiled with old reflexes. He was on his feet before the chime faded, crossing the room in 3 swift strides to the weapons locker by the door. Lyra moved in the opposite direction, her pale form a whisper of motion as she slid behind the console and brought their surveillance grid to life. Security feeds flickered across the screen, mapping every path to their hidden house on Elysia. Outside, the world was still, a garden of blue-leafed vines, untouched by the chaos they had left behind. But at the gate, a lone figure waited. Unarmed, hands raised, eyes wide with nervous hope. Rowan's finger hovered on the pulse pistol's trigger, but Lyra's voice was calm. Single visitor, no heat signatures, no weapons. He nodded, gaze hard, but a flicker of curiosity cut through his wariness. Lyra tapped a command, unlocking the outer gate. The visitor stepped into the lamplight, a man, disheveled but familiar. The Solaris technician, the one Rowan and Lyra had dragged to safety beneath a rain of fire and syndicate betrayal. They met him at the threshold, Rowan's stance defensive, Lyra silent and unreadable at his side. The technician stopped, breathless, and managed a lopsided smile. "Don't worry, I'm not here to cause trouble." He looked from Rowan to Lyra, awe and gratitude clear on his face. I wanted to thank you. For saving my life. For exposing the syndicate's lie. The world is different now because of you." He glanced back at the path he'd walked, then offered a battered satchel, a peace offering perhaps, filled with local fruit and a bottle of good Elysian wine. Rowan's tension eased a notch. He accepted the gift with a nod, wordless but sincere. The technician's gaze flickered around their home. The half-built flyer glinting in the dusk, the garden Rowan had coaxed from stony ground, Lyra's sketches scattered on the table. "It's beautiful here," he said, a little wistful. "But I'm not just here to say thank you." He took a deep breath. The world's changed since Arctis fell. The old powers are gone, but the void they left, it's dangerous. There are new groups rising. One of them, the Horizon Collective, I'm part of it now. We're not another syndicate. We believe in ethical exploration, building, not conquering. His words came quick, earnest. We need people like you, not saboteurs, pioneers, not for destruction, but discovery. I'm offering you purpose, a new kind of mission. Rowan looked at Lyra, searching her face for a sign. He saw the subtle shift in her posture, the way her eyes lit with interest despite herself. The peace had been real and good, but he felt the same itch she did. Stillness was starting to chafe. Their hands found each other's, the old habit of silent communication. The urge to run was gone, replaced by something else, the desire to move forward, together. "Tell us," Rowan said quietly, "what you have in mind." The technician's relief was palpable. He spoke of the Aurora, a new class ship built by the Collective, designed for deep space survey, equipped with the kind of tech Rowan and Lyra had risked their lives to keep out of the wrong hands. He described anomalies in uncharted nebulae, ruins older than recorded time, signals with no known source. "It's not safe," he admitted, "but it's honest. You'd be doing something that matters, not running, not hiding, discovering." He left them with a data module and a promise. If they chose to accept, a berth on the Aurora awaited them. No questions, no debts, just a future. That night, the stars seemed brighter. Rowan sat on the porch, the data module in his palm, watching the twin moons rise. Lyra joined him, quiet and thoughtful. They talked for hours, weighing risk and reward, peace and purpose. Rowan's hands traced the scar on his shoulder. Lyra's fingers ghosted over his. Their silences were as deep as their words. By morning, the decision was made. The bridge of the Aurora was silent. starlight spilling over the controls in ribbons of white and indigo. Gone was the battered star hauler, the weight of fugitive life. This was their ship now, their future. The console gleamed beneath Lyra's hands, alive with potential. Rowan moved easily beside her, checking systems, calibrating the jump drive, his energy matched to hers. Lyra's eyes danced across the nav screen, plotting a course toward a faint anomaly blinking in the heart of an uncharted nebula. Her mind whirred with calculations, possibility unfolding like a fractal. Her wounds had healed. Her sense of purpose was reborn. Odds of success, 47.3%, she announced, a rare, mischievous smile curving her lips. Rowan leaned over, covering her hand with his, warmth and confidence radiating from him. That's good enough for me. The engines thrummed, building to a crescendo. The stars outside the viewport stretched into brilliant lines, the universe opening before them. They leapt into the unknown, partners, lovers, explorers, no longer fugitives, but something more, a team, ready to face the universe together. That's the end of the story. You can leave us a tip or become a channel member. This greatly helps our team improve the quality of our videos. You can send a tip using the Super Thanks button right below the video. We truly appreciate each and every one of you who has subscribed and supported us. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.